America is home to 33 million small businesses, the beating heart of communities across the country.
And proof that the American dream is still alive.
This is a show about those dreamers and doers and the communities they serve.
Their real life stories.
Their struggles and successes.
Their grit, determination, and passion.
And the people who fight
to keep their American dream alive.
I'm Alfredo Ortiz.
I'm Elaine Parker.
And it's time for another episode of Main Street Matters,
America's small business megaphone.
I'm Elaine Parker, the president of the Job Creators Network Foundation. New York City is at a crossroads. As progressive economic policies take hold, supporters promise fairness and affordability, but critics warn we've seen this experiment before. Just look at Oregon, where years of aggressive regulation, high taxes, and ideological governance has helped drive businesses out, hollow out cities, and weaken public safety. The question for New York is simple. Are we about to repeat Oregon's costly mistake on a much bigger stage? Joining me today is Dennis Kneale, best-selling author, acclaimed journalist, former CNBC and Fox business anchor, and former senior editor at the Wall Street Journal and Forbes. He's the author of the forthcoming book, Oregoners. Dennis has spent years documenting what happens when ideology collides with economic reality. Dennis, welcome to the show.
It's great to see you, Elaine. I appreciate your time. And can our timing be any better with what's going on right now with Mondami taking office and instantly giving offense and doing some outrageous things? And then meanwhile, the voters in Portland, Oregon, last November, they said, hold my beer. And they elected 4 avowed members of the Democrat Socialists of America, is it, or workers, or whatever, the Mondani's group. They elected them to the 12-member council. And now they dominate the city agenda there. And meanwhile, the results just don't seem to matter. And the results are really glaring and awful. And now Mondami is doing some of the same moves in New York that Portland did to put it in its current sad state.
So, first of all, I hate to call them Democrat socialists. I call them communist socialists because that is really what they are. Yeah. And that is really what they're trying to bring to this country. But just to digress a little bit, why do you think we keep rewriting this book and rewriting this chapter and how the American people don't seem to learn from other countries, and Venezuela being a prime example?
Yeah. So, well, first, it sounds so good on paper. Let everyone get an equal share of the goods, no matter how little contribution you put into it. And free stuff, free bus service, free subway rides. Well, let's cap rents and stop landlords and property owners from being able to charge as much as the market will bear. Yeah, it sounds so good. That's one thing. But also, aren't we now, the youngest people, I think millennials make up the largest cohort in the workforce. Aren't we now seeing the product of 20 or 30 years of the education system, K through 12, and college, teaching all of this social justice stuff at the expense of math and language and English and good grammar and science, and isn't that now coming home to roost and then you have this group of people in their 20s and 30s. They haven't found themselves in terms of career and a real track. They have nothing to identify themselves with. They're less religious than ever before. And so you latch onto something to give your life meaning. And so you're marching for pro-Palestine when it has no effect on your personal life in any way, other than you being able to meet some good-looking women maybe and have them think you're all virtue signaled and liberal. And look at me, aren't I an enlightened person? And so that gives their life meaning when they have nothing else. And I think all of that comes together to create what Elon Musk lamented as the woke mind virus. And I did this book, The Leadership Genius of Elon Musk, came out early last year, and it gives you 11 lessons of Elon. And a lot of what you see going on is why he ended up raising $44 billion, including $25 billion of his own money, to buy Twitter and open up that platform and try to call out all that was going on. And most of us were just sitting down and not screaming about it.
Yeah, when you look at some of the policies, I mean, let's look at New York before we get into your new book. But let's look at Mondami. I happened to be in New York last week just for the holidays. I was fast asleep during his inauguration speech. I certainly would not participate in that, but I've since listened to it a couple of times, and I think that you can never accuse somebody like that of not telling you exactly what they're going to do, and that's really something I've always um, told people is, I don't agree with Bernie Sanders on anything. I don't agree with AOC on anything. I don't agree with Zoran Mondami on anything. But you can never accuse them of not telling us what they want to do or what they're going to do. They are flat out honest about what they want to do, and the words that they use, while pretty, they want to transform, they want to reinvent, they want to change, they want to give hope, they want to remake, and there is always great possibility in all of those ideas. And so when
There's another part of that, though, and that's how bleak and terrible and awful things are right now. And they keep describing a world that I just don't see because our economic growth is humming along at 2 times the rate of the past 10 or 15 or 20 years on average. And our stock markets, half the people are in the stock market at near all-time highs. And U.S. foreign policy has never been stronger and more muscular. And my gosh, I think that just move after move gives us reason for optimism. And yet, if you're a liberal and a Democrat and also a member of the media, the mainstream media, oh my gosh, everything's so bad.
exactly, and he talked about replacing the frigidity of rugged individualism with the warmth of collectivism. And I wanted to get your take on what that means, the warmth of collectivism. How does that help people? I mean, do you think that our iPhones would have been invented? Do you think we'd all be holding millions and millions of iPhones? Some people stand in line overnight to get the newest, latest, and greatest one. Would we be doing all of that if the government had done that? Because he said, that he said for those who think the era of big government is over, he's going to use the power of his office basically like never before to protect us, to protect New Yorkers. How does that protect New Yorkers?
And why is it that I need the government to protect me? Why is it that I need the government to do everything for me? And that's the kind of socialism that he is preaching is, we're going to take care of you because you are incapable of taking care of yourself. You are a victim of capitalism. It is so lame and weak and emasculating and depressing, and it isn't true. And yet, our voters in New York City, where I've lived, right here in Brooklyn for 43 years, voted for this guy. That is the small slice that bothered to go to the voter booth and vote on election day, voted for this monstrosity. He is handpicked by Muslim groups. They've been grooming him since 2014. The Muslim American activist Linda Sarsour said this publicly at a Muslim private meeting. And there's video of that available on X. And, he became a citizen only in 2018. He was born with a silver spoon in his mouth.
Mhm.
I mean, and then he's got all these anti-Semitic past things he said. And on day one, the first thing he does is he wipes out a lot of Eric Adams' predecessor, a Democrat, wipes out all of his executive orders signed since September when he was indicted for free flights taken over a decade ago that didn't lead to any policy change at all. Oh, we're going to wipe out those. And in there are 2 key pro-Israel anti-Semitic provisions, and he wipes those out at a time when 2 million Jews in New York are worried that this guy's going to favor the 1 million Muslims in New York and take a stance against Israel. And now he's doing it on day one, which was such a big, in-your-face message to say that he just doesn't care what they feel and what they believe when they're a rather large portion of the electorate.
I mentioned to you that Job Creators Network is founded by Bernie Marcus, the co-founder of the Home Depot. he was a billionaire. He passed away in late 24, um, uh, just before the election, actually the night before the election. And
Oh,
I always say that he knew that Trump was going to win the election, or he would have stuck around as the only reason why he went before the election. Um, but
because he disliked Trump.
he actually was a huge supporter of Trump.
Oh, okay, so he
Huge
felt like
support.
now that Trump's going to be in place, I can go ahead and,
We'll
uh,
be
and
okay.
and leave this earth.
Yeah,
Okay,
we'll be
gotcha.
okay.
That's good. I mean, that's good. I'm glad to hear
That
that.
he knew how it was what the outcome was gonna be. But, he came from nothing. His parents were poor immigrants from Russia. He grew up in a tenement in New Jersey. They had nothing growing up. They were as poor as church mice. And I've heard his story a million times. I worked for him since 2008, and I'm fascinated by his story because he was always able to be relatable to the person who was um, a server at a restaurant, to the person who were helping us at a Home Depot if I went to a Home Depot with him. It just didn't matter. He understood where people came from, and he understood how this system could help people, and the importance of protecting our capitalistic system, our free markets, and our ability to have equal opportunity, but not so much equal
Outcomes,
results.
guaranteed outcomes, equity. Yeah. Well, you know what? And he was self-made. He came from nothing, and then look what he built. I mean, Home Depot. And it's not just that he built wealth for himself. He built wealth for investors in Home Depot stock, for the thousands or hundreds of thousands of employees who worked for Home Depot. He helped make life better for people who got to go to Home Depot and buy the stuff that they wanted to buy at a good, price. And we turned under Obama and all of the Democrat bent since then. They tried to transform America from a land of opportunity into a land of envy. And that billionaires, the reason they're rich is because you don't have enough money. Well, the reason you don't have enough money may be because you went into the wrong industry, or you didn't work hard enough, or no one has to work for anyone in this country. If you're an Amazon employee, where they're paying now $15 to $20 an hour in wages, uh, and you don't like it and you feel exploited, quit. No one has to work for Amazon, and yet they've employed 1.2 million people. They've made millions, probably, of millionaires in their stock. Jeff Bezos, we say, should not be worth 250 billion. That's just too much. I believe Mondani said there should be no billionaires, or maybe that was Bernie Sanders, same diff. Okay, and yet that 250 billion, well, Amazon's worth close to like $2 trillion. There's $800 billion in wealth held by other people, firefighter pension funds, nurses pension funds, university endowments. They've got wealth, a piece of that wealth, because Jeff Bezos helped create Amazon, that then gave great things overnight at great prices. And so what is not to like? And yet there's an anti-business bent in the Democrat Party. In all of Oregon, there's no appreciation of the private sector, and yet no community can thrive. No state or city can thrive without capitalism, without a private sector, without small business that accounts for, what is it, 70% of the economy?
Mhm.
Capitalism is optimism monetized. You invest in a new business because of hope, and hope is a decision. And yet, on the other side, all we have is doom. All we have is Trump bad, Trump bad. They got no other card to play.
So what drew you to Oregon? Because there's certainly a lot of cities to write about that
Yeah.
have gone
But
down this path, but what took you there first?
Oregon, I learned, is a canary in a coal mine. When I was working on the Elon book, I became fascinated with his abhorrence and almost fear of the woke mind virus. It
Mhm.
cost him dearly in his own personal life. And then, as I'm doing that, up comes this National Guard order by Trump in September saying, I want to send 200 troops in to protect ICE in Portland. It's been under siege over 100 nights in a row from a couple dozen Antifa and Black Bloc. Later, they dressed as cutesy animals because they wanted to kind of take away the attention from the things they were doing, shining lasers into helicopter pilots' eyes, assaulting conservative journalists who were there or any opponents, taking over city streets, you know? And every single Oregon politician came out against stopping this with national troops because it was Trump doing it. The governor, the 2 U.S. senators, the entire congressional delegation, the mayor of Portland. I mean, the chief of police, everyone's against this. And how could you be against trying to just bring law and order to a place that's been racked by sometimes violent protests for 100 nights in a row? How could all of you be against that? You're blinded and brainwashed. And that's when I started descending into this hell of downtown Portland and walking around there. And they're selling 3 fentanyl pills for $1. They have open air drug use. This is a town that, because of $6 million in Soros money in the 2020 campaign, put it on the ballot to make hard drugs, not criminalized at all, legal. And they ended up having over 1,000 overdose deaths in the first year, couple of years as a result of this. So in 2024, they repealed it, and still they're not enforcing it. And there's open air drug use and sales going on in downtown Portland and in Bend and in Eugene. It's just racked the place with lawlessness.
Well, you describe it as once being a magnet for talent and investment. Is it
Yeah.
the change as far as the drug use?
Oh
Is it
my gosh,
taxes,
they
regulation?
now have a net out migration of high earners and businesses, okay? The Portland metro area is losing $1 billion a year in income. I'm having video problems, I think. My apologies. I'll keep talking in case you can hear me. The Portland metro area is losing $1 billion a year in income. Multnomah County, which includes Portland and a couple other cities, they passed a preschool for all tax on people earning over 125K. And in 3 years, the 1,000 richest taxpayers, highest taxpayers in that county, in 3 years, 310 of the 1,000 left. Because
Wow.
enough already with the tax increase after tax increase. Portland has the second highest taxes in the country of any city, only after New York, where I live. And yet in New York, they say, in Oregon, you guys get something for your tax money. Here, we have some of the highest spending on education per student. Our 4th grade and 8th grade reading and math are at the bottom of the country. It's as if we're Mississippi, as one political operative said to me. So they're getting terrible results for all of their high spending. And their answer always is to spend more, raise taxes more, because the rich and the businesses will pay for it. And so 90% of people voted in favor back in 2020 for that preschool for all tax. Well, yeah, that's because, you don't have to pay for it. Only the rich do. And yet it turns out the rich get angry at ridiculously high marginal tax rates. In Oregon, they're one of only 9 or 10 states that have this estate tax when you die. And while the federal estate tax says, we'll let you keep the first $14 million free, and then you better put yourself in trust or something to hide it from the federal estate tax, all right? But in Portland, they're taxing everything over $1 million. It's the most punitive tax in the estate of any state tax in the country. Anything over $1 million, and they'll take up to 16% of it. So Tim Boyle is the founder CEO of Columbia Sportswear, and he loves Oregon. But if he dies there, and he's in his 70s now, his $1.7 billion net worth could lose almost $300 million in taxes just because he died. Your children don't get any of that. The state takes it. That's simply rude, usury.
Is there an acknowledgement or reckoning from the leadership in Oregon that things are not good? At a minimum, that things are not good, or do you still see the same kind of rosy statistics that you get
It's
from Governor Newsom in
Yes.
California?
It's such a great question because indeed, let me tell you something. They are in denial, Elaine. They are utterly in denial. And there's something called Oregon Exceptional and Portland Polite. and Oregon nice. And it's rude to bring up any criticism or any disagreement with the Democrat dogma there. You just don't do it. And there's retaliation if you do. And so I talked to Angela Wilhelms, who runs Oregon Business and Industry, a kind of super chamber for representing business interests for the state. And it commissions studies, and it's been trying to say, Molly, you're in danger, girl, like the great line from Whoopi Goldberg in Ghost. And they aren't listening. They aren't concerned enough. They don't even have an economic plan, an actual plan and strategy. The only time they notice business is when they need to raise taxes again. So they start saying the right things. This is what Angela Wilhelm says about them. And they simply aren't afraid enough yet. And most other people I've interviewed a couple dozen political operatives, politicians, business owners, lawyers, and almost all of them say, we haven't hit bottom yet. And until we do, there won't be an urgent enough response to this crisis. But the state, meanwhile, it's got more deaths than births. It's got out migration of jobs and income and high taxpayers. It's got 4 times the homeless rate per capita of the national average. Its education system is just utterly, down as almost as low as it can go. Unions dominate the place. They decide who gets picked to run for office. The supermajority that the Democrats have had for 10 years, pretty much, means that there is no diversity of opinion. There's no one inside the Democrat Party who stands up and says, wait a minute, we're going in the wrong direction here. And Tina Kotek, the governor, ran as a reform candidate, even though she's this, she was 10 years running as Speaker of the House. She is the ultimate insider, but she ran as a reform candidate. She ran especially on 3 things. I think it was climate change and or something, and housing, homelessness, and a third super liberal thing, the untreated mentally ill, and all have gotten worse. In Portland, homelessness rose 60% in 2 years. In the state, homelessness, it's over 20,000, I think it is. It rose 67% in 3 years. So things are getting worse under her watch.
So the homeless problem has really worsened in the last few years, you mentioned, and they're spending more and more and more than $700 million, and yet it continues to get worse. You referred to it as I believe, a homeless industrial complex. Explain
Yeah,
what you mean by that.
I picked up that phrase from Kevin Dahlgren. He's on the X platform. He worked for the various homeless companies, charities or whatever, for the better part, I think it was 18 years. For the last few years, he's been calling them out because here's the thing he points out is that if you're an NGO getting millions of dollars a year from government, state, and local grants to help with homelessness, you put yourself out of business if
Hmm.
homelessness ends. And so he talks to homeless people, interviews them all the time on video. And it's been months since they had any counselor who was there trying to get them off the street. Let us reunite you with your family. Let us try to put you into some type of rehab. And instead, they're there saying, here's clean tin foil for you to snort methamphetamine powder off of. Here's clean needles. Here's a tent and a tarp so that you can set up and live homeless on the sidewalk just about anywhere you want. And it's just made the city a hellhole. And it's made many parts of Oregon suffering from the 4 horsemen of urban collapse. And isn't that, let's see if I can remember them, homelessness, drug addiction and alcoholism, mentally ill, and street crime. And they reinforce and feed off of one another. Those 4 horsemen do. And then because they're anti-cop, they don't get them off the police. There's an October 8th city council meeting in Portland. A dozen business owners go there, either online or in person, and they're crying for help downtown. And they're giving harrowing tales of assaults and fights and and one was assaulted just the day before. She's been icing her arm because a homeless person came in there and assaulted her when she tried to stop them from shoplifting. And they want one thing more than anything else, more cops. And not a single one of the council members present said, I'm sorry for your pain. I'm sorry this happened to you. Let's get these people help. Instead, it was, thank you for sharing that. Next, because they don't want to hire more cops,
You
but they're
know,
down to 800 cops.
Mondami's agenda includes things like rent control,
Yeah.
free busing, universal child care, obviously lots of spending, lots of ultimate taxing. and aggressive. I mean, you're going to see aggressive business regulation over that and higher taxes. Where do you see the parallels of what's happened in Portland to what you foresee
Right.
happening in New York?
Well, the anti-business bent is certainly a parallel. There is this suspicion that business is only out for itself. And yet, if business thrives, so do its employees and the employees' families, right? And so that anti-business bent is there. In homelessness, this idea of not sweeping up homeless camps, not forcing them to move, well, that ended up letting homelessness spread across urban parts of Oregon. And now Mondani just came out the other day and said, we're no longer going to sweep homelessness camps. And yet, the great thing about New York's homeless problem is it's invisible a lot of the time, although I have to step over homeless Americans on the subway on Sundays to get to Newsmax while they were putting up illegal immigrants in midtown luxury hotels. Literally true. I know a nurse who worked in one of them. It's just craziness. So there's a real parallel there. Certainly 4 socialists on the city council, and now we've got a socialist mayor. And this regard for every other group, every supposedly neglected group, okay, except white males. All right. Well, that's a very interesting parallel. You know, they're so worried in Oregon always about neglected communities and people of color and underrepresented communities. They're 2.5% Black. What are they talking about? And yet, Portland, as went looking for a new city manager because they've got an entire new charter and a new city council, and now they need a city manager and things. All 3 finalists were Black men. Now, I think the odds of that, if you look at, say, the 200 top city managers in the country and what percentage are Black, the thought that you have 3 finalists and they are only 3 all Black men, I will tell you, is probably 1 in thousands the chances that that can come together. I mean, it's just so self-consciously overdoing it to favor anyone, anywhere, of any color at all, without regard sometimes to quality. It's just right out of Portlandia. The 7 or 8 seasons, 77 episodes on IFC channel, comedy sketch show, and they debate in Oregon whether it's fiction or documentary. It's right out of Portlandia.
When cities like Portland drive off the wealth and they drive off the businesses, and now we see New York with Mondami coming in with the same types of policies that many are predicting will drive off wealth and businesses. And frankly, we've seen a big exodus of New Yorkers because of the COVID policies, the COVID era
That
policies
started it, yeah.
that
Yeah.
started it. So to see more, how fast does it happen where a city becomes a Portland and you see the unraveling of society like
Yeah.
that when
It
you start with those types of policies and you drive that wealth out?
Right. Well, there's 2 different things, Elaine. It's how fast does it start to happen and how fast does it become visible? And I think it takes longer for it to really become evident and visible in the figures because the local people will do everything they can to gainsay the trend and to insist it's not happening. And so there's a denial and a delay. And yet some of those decisions start happening right away. In New York, companies already are deciding, I'm not going to expand here. I'm
Right.
going to expand somewhere else in New Jersey or whatever. Gee, what's the reason there's a new Texas stock exchange that's opened up? Well, now companies that are based in New York and on the New York Stock Exchange, they're going to look more than they did before. That's an instant change. It's just that you don't see it because now they're going to evaluate and decide how much public guff they can take for making a move and for abandoning the city. So I think that instantly it changes. I myself have been in New York 43 years. I'm moving January 15th. I'm moving down to South Florida to help my brother take care of our mom, who's getting older now, 87, and is not doing well. Okay, so I'm leaving because of mom, not Mom Donnie. And at the same time, Mom Donnie makes me happy to leave rather than sad. It's one of those things I will not be missing. And I'm going to watch from afar while New York spirals downward. And if I work it right, in 5 years or so, I can come back and the property values have fallen 20 to 30%, and I can buy in on the cheap.
Yeah. Well, speaking to somebody who is in Florida, I will tell you that the free state of Florida is a good place to be. And right off the bat, you will get a raise just by not
Right on.
having
You know
to
what?
pay taxes.
Any money I take out of retirement account, I keep literally, it's like 14.9% more because I'm going to be getting away from New York State tax and New York City tax. Almost 15%. My gosh, that's a huge difference.
It really is, and it's a great place to live, and I can tell you the weather is wonderful. I loved being in New York last week, and seeing, the holiday spirit and the beautiful snow even, but it
Yeah.
was nice to come back to Florida and be nice and warm.
Yeah. Well, look, New York is a great city. And when people catastrophize and say they're going to destroy New York is so large, it's so big, nothing is going to destroy it. At some point, it will right itself. But when you get into Oregon, a very small state, really, big landmass, but 4% of the state, it actually has people on it. And you've got, 5 pockets up in the Northwest that are super liberal, and you've got counties everywhere else. It's so small. One media market controls the state, really. Portland is like 65% of the media market, so that messaging can really become very effective. The wrong messaging, the liberal messaging. And so a place like that is in real danger of not being able to recover. Oregon, for decades, forgive the potentially sexist reference, but it just fits so well, I'll use it anyway. For decades, Oregon was like this hot blonde that everyone wanted to dance with at the dance. Everyone wanted to go out with her. And man, she could get away with any bad behavior, with any being mean or rude or whatever, because you want this. But it was also a big tease because you can't have any of this. We're going to take millions of acres and keep them off limits to timber, which founded the state, which made people lose their jobs. It's just so. But now she's like in her 60s. She's to stop wearing leather miniskirts. She's got to change her behavior and be a lot nicer. Cut taxes. Stop layering on more regulation. Do you know, I just heard yesterday, this fish processing plant up in Astoria, which has been devastated by regulations and turned to tourism, but there are a few left, has just been told by the Department of Environmental Quality in the state that the water that you take in with the fish you catch and that you then return to the ocean, you have to clean it first. It has to be cleaner than when you took it out of the ocean to catch the fish. It is the just ridiculously most burdensome, stupid regulation. And it's because they don't want businesses there that extract from the land and the sea and turn it into something worth selling. You're bad. We want to choke you off anyway. And so they come up with ridiculous rules like that.
Wow. Well, that is interesting, and I guess there's probably a whole class on how you clean water before you put it back into the
It's
sea.
technology that doesn't even exist yet. The DEQ invented, but then told them, if you don't clean this water, we will take you to court.
Well, Mondami said in his speech that he was elected as a democratic socialist and he will govern as a democratic socialist.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you think will change the trajectory of what he thinks he's going to implement as an agenda?
Yes. And that is any kind of, if you start to see businesses leave and a public uproar happens about it or the media cover it, but also if he begins losing voter support, if even young people are going to be miffed because, hey, you promised me free subway, free bus service. He has no power to grant either. You promised me cheaper food, government subsidized food that's going to put bodega owners out of business in Harlem. I mean, if he senses that they're turning against him, he and his machine will suddenly have to do something that at least provides the mask that they're changing course, because this guy wants to get reelected and his backers want him in power, and they're only just starting. Now, luckily, he can't ever run for president. You know, he
Well,
was
he
born
can't
in
raise
Uganda.
he cannot raise taxes. He cannot raise the billions of dollars to support these programs on his own. I mean, he can't. And the governor, Kathy Hochul, is running on no new taxes. So how does
Right.
that connect? Like, how does he even implement these things
Yeah.
or begin to even pay for them if
Right.
he has no power to really do it. Because even his city is a microcosm. Every city, every state, they're all a microcosm of the federal government, right? So you've got essentially a House and a Senate, or
Yes.
in his case, he's got, the heads of the five boroughs. They have to pass legislation for him to sign into law, right? And
Right.
if he can't get that done, he doesn't get what he wants.
Yes, and he's with a party, the Democrat Socialist Workers, is it? Which is it, Workers or America? America, I think, DSA.
Social, yeah, of America.
But he's with a group that actually literally says, the Democrat Party's bad. It's not liberal enough, and we're here to replace the Democrat Party. Basically, I was reading some stuff there, and 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 so, what Democrats on the city council are going to support him if he wants to basically replace their party? I mean, he's going to have so much of a harder time getting things done. Thank gosh, because the things he wants to get done are bad. So, so I'm really praying for gridlock because I do love New York. I came here in 1982 when it was scary. Okay. I was almost mugged in JFK Airport upon landing in New York for my very first time that night to show up for a job interview at the Wall Street Journal the next morning. It was scary as heck. And then I came back on a house hunting trip because I got hired and I'm in Brooklyn Heights. And a woman bursts out of her apartment and says, "Will you please call the police? Because there's a guy who just came in through my back window," although there were no cell phones in that day. I mean, it was just a really scary place at first. And then it got better and better, in part because of Mayor Giuliani, 8 years, Republican, Bloomberg, 8 years, trans Republican. And the city got in great shape. But in the past couple of years, it's scarier again. I
Mhm.
walk the streets ready, vigilant, ready for flight or fight. And as I've said before, in my case, flight, because I'm no tough guy. And if anyone wants to
Well,
mug
you
me,
can you can always I guess now you'll be able to call a social worker if you've got a problem.
yeah, exactly. When I was in Portland downtown, staying down there, I go at night into a CVS, and there's this scraggly bearded young kid behind the counter. He's really upset. He's on the phone to 911 because a thief who just ripped them off has come right back in boldly, and he's on there. And sure enough, I found out later they sent in a response team that basically, took notes and thank you and left. I mean, there was no enforcement. There was no, if your car is broken into there, you go to a website to record the crime. They won't even send a cop. They've got as many cops as they had only in 1993, 800. That's 1.0 cops for 1,000 people, apparently. And the national average is over 2.0 cops. So there's a ballot proposal because the legislature is so unresponsive and the government, the Democrat controlled government, is just so in your face. We're not going to listen to you, that you rule the place by ballot signatures if you can raise enough. And so they're raising ballot signatures to say, hey, we've got like $250 million surplus in this climate change fund. You're collecting more money than you could even spend and give to NGOs. Let's take 50 million of it a year and hire 400 more cops and get up to 1,200 in the national average of 2 point something per 1,000 people. And sure enough, the city council opposes it, despite all those business owners dying for more police downtown. They just don't listen. And then if the voters up there in that upper Northwest liberal corner of the state just continue reelecting Democrats, there will be no change. But now, there's an uprising. 250,000 voter signatures. They only needed 78,000. 250,000 voters signed a petition saying, let's get this new gas tax, a 6 cents a gallon increase that the governor pushed through. Let's get this on the ballot to overturn it in November 2026. And it's just a huge revolution happening. And they didn't spend a dollar to do it. It was all volunteers. And that's a sign that there's real trouble afoot. 67% of registered voters in Oregon say we're in trouble. We're on the seriously wrong track economically. 67% in a new poll from an outfit called Save Our Cities. They commissioned it from a firm. Yeah, incredible. And so there's this gap between the people and just the potentates. They marched against no kings, but the Democrats and their union benefactors are the kings in Oregon.
Well, Dennis, you've got just a plethora of stories to talk about that are going to be very relatable in New York. But I'm looking forward to your book, Oregoners. Tell everyone where they can follow you and when they can
Yes.
expect to pick up a copy of your new book.
The only platform in the world you should be on, baby, is X. I mean, it is amazing. All the media said 2 years ago when Elon Musk took it over that he's destroying it. It's been ruined. I mean, it is the single most important, dynamic, free media platform in the world. At Dennis Kneale, Kneale. Follow me. Your life will never be the same. Also, my podcast, What's Bugging Me, is on Ricochet and everywhere else, where I talk about Indeed, and it's a lot. What's bugging me? And watch out for Oregoners and buy my book, 11 Lessons of Elon, man, and the leadership genius of Elon Musk. I'm proud of that book. And one day, I will have dinner with Elon Musk and he will vet those lessons for me. So far, he's only returned a single email, but
That's
hopefully,
pretty good, though, an email.
yeah, I was happy with that. Right? It's like in Dumb and Dumber, where Jim Carrey asks Holly, whatever her name is, "Hey, you think there's a chance you got with me?" And she says, "Yeah, like 1 in a million." And he says, "So you're saying there's a chance?"
I love that line.
You got to take that optimistic view, you know?
Yeah, I love that line. I love that line. Well, Dennis, thank you so much for joining us. I look forward to reading your forthcoming book, Oregoners.
Yes.
And thank you all for taking the time to tune in to Main Street Matters. Main Street Matters is part of the Salem Podcast Network. New episodes debut every Wednesday and Friday. You can subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcast from, and we'll be back soon with another episode. Bye for now.